You are now listening to Creative Hora.
Hi everyone, welcome to Creative Hora. I'm Mary,
And I'm Dalia.
and we're super excited to be back with another episode with two friends talking about creativity, wellness, and everything related to our creative journey.
Yes, friend, I'm so pumped to be back with you here in another episode to catch up and hear about how we're both doing with our creative projects, creative journeys. I feel like this is such a great moment for us to just not just hold each other accountable about also catch up and hear about how things are going.
Yeah, but I guess before we dive deeper into our creative projects and different tools we've tapped into, kick us off with just a quick friend vibe check. So, friend, how have you been lately? What's the vibe there in California?
Yes, friend. The vibe here, I would say probably. I mean, the weather is nice, but it's as it's happening collectively, it's all a bit chaotic everywhere. Just trying to be present with everything that's going on in the country, like in just globally, while still also trying to, of course, take care of my mental health, take care of my well-being. So it's all really a balance. But this week, I would say, honestly, it's been hard to keep balance. Actually, it's been difficult to stay really present with everything that's going on. So I would say what I'm feeling at this moment is um, compassion that's necessary for being imbalanced, I guess. And I guess what I mean by that is, like, for example, I realized that this week, like, I didn't pick up my skates at all. I was like not really like practicing, even if it's just like putting them on and like um I realized I didn't really pick them up. And so like those are things that I'm like, oh, okay, like I'm not being as present because I know I love skating, that I'm not being as present with myself and in my body. So I guess like what I'm feeling now is I'm just trying to extend compassion to myself in being like, okay, maybe like this week it was a little bit harder to jump back into these routines, but like we can always like start fresh at any moment. So yeah, I'm just like enveloping myself in a lot of compassion, peak energy, just giving myself grace this week.
Well, I love that because if there's anything that I know about you, compassion is definitely all over who you are as a person, as my friend, and all the other intersecting identities that you have. So I'm glad that you're giving yourself self-compassion because I know you give a lot of compassion out there to the universe and to the people around you.
Thank you, friend. I appreciate that. But how are you feeling, friend, at this moment? How are you today?
Yeah, I think today and this past week, interestingly, I've felt pretty energized. Um, I think last week was a little bit of a tougher week for me, and after regrounding and pausing and listening to just things that keep me grounded last week, this week I was able to get back. And I think the one thing that resonated with me this week was just showing up, even if it's hard, or just meditating when maybe the hardest times when I don't want to, and just showing up, whether that's again
Yeah.
with my practices or even showing up at work, if even though people tend to, spike a little irritation in me. But I think that was the cue for this week, was just showing up, and that
Mm.
having that in mind at the beginning of the week helped me remain energized and remain grounded and present. And to top it off, I did reconnect with a very good friend of mine who, also from California, in the Bay Area actually, who happened to be in the DC area. So that also brought a lot of energy on top of just the reset that I had from last week. So yeah, definitely very grateful to have this like energized feeling overall this week amidst everything that's happening.
Mm-hmm.
But that was key for me was just the showing up even if it's hard, and that could mean so many different things from like as small as again showing up for my meditation practice or even just showing up at work when things get a little difficult. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's where I'm at.
Wow, friend. I love that. Definitely so important, have that little like bounce back from from last week and
Exactly.
so important. And I love that it sounds like there was a lot of opportunities to really
Hmm.
connect with others and be around others as well.
Hmm.
So yeah, what a wonderful way for you to show up for yourself this week and just being connected and present.
Yeah, no, it definitely was helpful. Again, this I think it's I can get easily caught up in just everything that's going on, along with I'm sure other folks out there. But I think it helped me just reset to one, just get back in tune with things that fulfill me or things that are really valuable to me, such as friendships and connection with others, and just like the grounding practices I've built. So I think yeah, it was huge for me this week and felt like a sense of relief too.
I love that, friend. I love that when, yeah, we tap into our toolkit and,
Yes.
that work that you've been doing for weeks, months, it's something that you can ease back into. So I love that, friend.
Thank you, friend. But I guess to kick us off, I know we've been doing the color of or card color of the day or for the
Hmm.
episode where we pull out again for those that may not be as familiar. We're using this card called Icebreaker Deeper Talk where we pull out a card and each different card has a color coordinated where each color represents a big category. For example, gray is dreams, yellow is life lessons, green is exposed, a light blue is courage, and then the orange is beliefs, and then a darker blue is self awareness. Any of those words spike out to you, friend? And I can go ahead and pull.
The word that always stands out to me whenever I hear it is courage.
Courage.
So as
Okay,
soon as you
let's see.
said courage, it was the word. I'm like,
Okay,
okay.
let's see. All right, so this one came out. Courage. Okay, I think I got one. Got a good one. It says, "What conversation do you need to have to set yourself free?"
Oh, oh my
So
gosh.
it's like,
Okay. Oh,
so again, the
damn.
question under the courage category is, what
Hmm.
conversation do you need to have to set yourself free?
Hmm.
Wow.
Wow.
Talk about courage, right?
Yeah, talk about courage. Wow.
Mm.
Yeah, this is such an interesting question. And surprisingly, I feel like I've been thinking about this like
Mm.
this past week. So I've been
Okay.
reflecting, of course, on my Saturn return.
Mm. Mhm.
And for those of you that don't know what a Saturn return is, it's typically a period where Saturn returns to the exact moment or place it was when you were born. And that typically happens around the time that you're like 29, 30, 31. So it's meant to be a time where you are supposed to go through a lot of growth. It can be like, just a lot of period of that hopefully better understanding who you are. So
Mhm.
I've been reflecting on my Saturn return and just the lessons that I've learned. Moving into this era, feeling like I'm responsible for taking care of my needs and showing up for myself, and
Mhm.
what are the areas that I could better do so in my day to day. So when I'm thinking about this question, what conversation do I need to have with myself to set myself free? It feels so timely to
Yeah.
those specific questions that I've been reflecting on around, moving into this era of my life where I have more awareness about the
Mhm.
responsibility that I have, not just to myself, but, to my community, to the people that I love, my loved ones, in a way that is just, just feeling grown, I guess.
Mhm.
But yeah,
Mhm.
and I would say the one thing that comes to mind is, not being afraid of what it means to take on, that type of accountability that comes with, putting yourself more in the center stage or in control of things. Because I feel like I'm moving into this era where it requires me to be more loud about the spaces that I'm in, be very present and active.
Mhm.
And I don't just mean that
Mhm.
in my work environment where I'm being pushed to, put myself out there more and, be present just in terms of my job, of day to day of my job. I'm saying that also in terms of the way that I like show up as um,
Mhm.
show up for myself, show up as a
Mhm.
sister, show up as a daughter,
Mhm.
and as an aunt. And yeah, there's areas of my life where I feel like I tend to be afraid of what it means to take on that accountability or that responsibility, in being more in the forefront of things and taking
Mhm.
accountability for things and be like, hey, I'm gonna be the one that makes this happen and
Mhm.
follows through with it. So
Mhm.
yeah,
Mhm.
so I feel like I'm just easing into that. I'm accepting that. I think it's already happening naturally where I'm being pushed into the spotlight of certain things. And I'm like, oh wow, this is like me it's now my job to do this. And like,
Yeah.
whether it's even like, supporting my mom's health more as she's getting
Mhm.
older or,
Mhm.
understanding that, planning for the future and security and that
Mhm.
being for myself and my wellness and stability. And yeah, so I'm just, that was a really, this low
I
key, this
love
question
that.
sent me into a
Yeah.
spiral, but, um,
No, I
I
love
I
it.
just feel like it's so important for me to be open
Mhm.
to the way the universe wants me to be
Mhm.
present and show up in those places. So I love that you said show up because I love that. I
Yeah.
feel like showing up it's really really hard. Even
Yeah.
when if we're not feeling grounded, we're not feeling the best, but showing up is like so powerful. Just being present and being there. So yeah, I appreciate you
Mhm.
sharing that earlier.
Yeah. And yeah, friend, thank you for sharing. And I think it was a timely question. I know we talked about Saturn return, and I know I went through mine, I think last year or something, and hearing yours and just the timeliness of the reflection based on what the question asked us. I do think, to your point, is it was just a it's weird. It's like a coincidence that it was already organically happening in terms of just the conversations you're having with family, even with myself as your friend, but even like all the other like your loved ones and things that you've been just having and working on. So I think, yeah, I just appreciate you sharing always your journey and all the learnings that come with, again, with this push of the Saturn return era.
Yes, yes. It's definitely a push.
Yeah, I think for me, a conversation that I need to have to set myself free. I mean, my mind goes to a lot of different ways, and I don't think there's one particular conversation that I need to have at this moment. It's more so, how do I continue the momentum of the conversations I've been having already,
Hmm.
and to continue setting myself free. And I think there's a huge part of me that took on an endeavor of like last year with living with my sister and my niece. And I think if you were to ask me this question last year, the conversation would have been like really diving deeper into what emotional vulnerability, emotional intimacy meant with my siblings. But now it's, and that is, I've started that in the past year, but I don't think it's like, oh, I'm done. It's been a year. I've done it. So for me, this question really like it's like more so like reflecting back on the year. How do you continue these emotional intimacy with my family, these emotional conversations with family that does continue to make me feel freer and lighter. Um,
Mhm.
so I think, yeah, having more ongoing conversations with things that maybe I'm going through and being vocal about those things with my family and just certain things that even has impacted me in the past, and being open to those discussions with my sisters are conversations that I want to continue having, so then I could continue to again feel freer and lighter as the time progresses. So yeah, I think I love that question because it made me go different ways in terms of what way I was gonna take it. But
Mhm.
I think the emotional intimacy part with my family and building that over time is essentially where my gut told me to share. So yeah, I think that's where I'm at with this question.
Hmm. Wow, friend, that is so beautiful. And I love the way that you express emotional vulnerability as something that can be so freeing. I think a
Mhm.
lot of the times, like when, for example, when I think about emotional intimacy and vulnerability, it's something that makes me feel like it's not freeing. And that's probably another conversation. But I love the way that you really position that in a way that is very specific to your
Mhm.
relationship with your siblings, because a lot of
Mhm.
the times, like, we're thinking about, and it goes both ways. The more you're working on it with your siblings, the more it will transcend to your other relationships and
Yeah.
partnerships. But that layer of, some that relationship with their siblings is so important, such a big part of our world. I mean, I have three sisters myself, so I
Mhm.
understand.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it's something that I love, that how specific that was. I love that it was related to your relationship with your siblings and bringing more emotional vulnerability and
Mhm.
intimacy. That's so intentional as well.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I mean, I like it. I think I do think there's a part of my in quote softer side that
Yeah.
makes me feel freer and freer the more I
Mm.
exercise this softer side of me. And it's really funny because I actually asked my partner Amani like earlier this week. I was like, "Damn, I think I'm softer now." But it was like joking. But again, I think this softness and tenderness of just tapping into my emotions has made me feel like lighter and freer. I
Mm.
can't emphasize it enough in terms of what I've experienced. But I do think I could see why you would say like, "Oh no, that doesn't sound as freeing." Because to your point, I think there's moments where I feel that way. I'm like, "Damn, this is too much. Like, is this the right way to express how I'm feeling? It doesn't feel as freeing. It feels like suffocating almost." But then it goes back to again, I think that the tenderness and softness of just expressing emotions helps me like feel freer over time.
Yeah, I love that, friend. It's so inspiring and such a kind reminder, even to myself, to challenge myself on those
Mhm.
perspectives. So I love that. I love that tenderness, that softness that I feel even as your friend, as I'm having conversations with you, in the way that you approach our conversation. So yeah, I think it's a beautiful, beautiful era. And, in, in my healing journey and
Mhm.
going through the process of better understanding myself, like,
Yes.
those are the things that I'm leaning into. And so when I listen to you talk about it, I'm like, okay, like, I'm inspired. I'm going down this path of also, yeah, being more tender, because, like, I acknowledge that there's still a lot of work that I need to do.
Mhm.
But I'm so open and inspired to hearing, whether it's like when you talk about it, when my sister talks about that soft, tender
Mhm.
air, I'm like, wow, like, it's such a, I know that that's magic. To me, that feels
Mhm.
like magic.
Mhm.
So it's very magical to go through that journey of becoming more tender, more soft, more compassionate. And I love that,
Mhm.
friend.
Yeah, no. Yeah, what a question. That was great. I
Yeah,
think
I
these
love that
questions, hard questions,
one. Yeah.
really pushes us, but no. Yeah, it feels good. It feels good to just share and I like those questions. Make us talk deeper as the intent.
Yes, yes.
So I
But
guess go ahead, Andrea.
Yeah, I was going to say this is such a great transition into
Yeah.
our conversation around our creative project and catching up
Mhm.
on how things have been going, like a creative pulse check.
Yeah, friend, I think last time we chatted about this. For those that don't know, I've been talking a lot about just a basketball community that I'm building with my partner Amani here in the DC, Maryland, Virginia region. But um and the first part was like this whole basketball league for women's and the LGBTQIA plus community, and excited to announce and share that we did launch the league last week and had
Yeah.
this yeah, that was such a like surreal, beautiful moment to launch that and to see things in fruition and motion. There's over 60 participants about who
Mm.
registered, and we had a wait list and everything. And and yeah, I can't even describe the moment when we saw like all the teams coming up and grabbing their jersey and just our logo on these jerseys. By the way, yeah, the county kind of messed up and ordered the jerseys a little too early, so then they had our logos on it. Um, but all in all, I think just to see it in fruition was such a beautiful moment for my partner and I. A lot of people were just recognizing, oh, like yeah, like you, we follow you guys, or they recognize us from afar. And in terms of like Hoop As You Are, Haya, the Instagram that we currently have, and mind you, a lot of these folks, like about 50% of them, we didn't know because they were just through social media or to flyers we created. Um, but it was really nice to put a face to like all the people that were DMing us about the different logistical questions they had about the league. Um, and again, I think it was such a like a beautiful moment that I shared with Amani. Just looking at the games, we watched all three games. Or actually, we played in one of those three games, but the other two, um, we were able to just pause, and I just remember looking at her and I was like, "Wow, like we really did this from the ground up, from
Mhm.
scratch." We saw a missing space for a very important population that we, or just the different population and identities that we also identify with, and we built a space for it, and just to see it live and just full blown in motion was just really wonderful. So yeah, that's the latest update.
Yeah, what an incredible update, friend. Congratulations on launching the league. What a huge,
Mhm.
huge feat. I cannot imagine what that felt like seeing the
Yeah,
community in front of you and being able to interact
yeah.
with them. Did you feel any pressure, being in the center of, because I know we talked in the past about you were a little nervous about,
Mhm.
becoming like the face of the brand. Yeah, so I'm curious, how did you feel that as you were interacting with the community in person?
I don't think pressure was the word. Um, and I do think it was less like pressure, but more so wanting to make the space feel as inclusive, feel as open,
Mm-hmm.
and very much feel as a safe space for the people that we recruited. Because that's what we said, that we would create a basketball league with women's and trans and non-binary folks to feel mostly safe. So I think I guess like that would be where the pressure would come from, less so of like, oh my god, we're the face of this brand and are we living up to like the expectations of these folks. It was mainly like, do each individual feel safe here? And if
Mm,
they reached out to us and they said that, they identified as trans, like, do we have the appropriate measures to respond if there was like a logistical issue that they face? It could be
yeah.
like something like identification or matching um that ID with what they registered under their name. So I think it was more so that type of pressure and less so of like, wow, we're this brand, and what do we need to do to really market ourselves as this big old brand. But it was mainly like the individual piece for me that wanted to make sure that each person, one, received just safety. It felt like safe in the space. And I mean, I'm in healthcare. I'm in, management. So for me, it wasn't like, am I going to meet everyone's needs? Because I know it's like almost impossible to do that. But I think my partner and I, not I think, I know my partner and I really put a lot of intention and a lot of
Mm-hmm.
good energy towards this. And there's going to be hiccups and challenges. And we can't please 60 plus people all at the same time. But I think the energy was like they felt the intention and just the
Wow.
energy that we put in here. And of course, there's always going to be hiccups in anything that's organized or any new endeavor. But all in all, I would say like it was less so pressure, but more so that feeling of security and safety for the people that we recruited.
Yeah, friend. Wow. Well, I'm just so proud of y'all as a friend to
Mhm.
see your vision come to reality. And it's so even incredible to hear you talk about how intentional you and Amani were to make sure that you were creating a safe space for every member of the
Mhm.
community.
Mhm.
And yeah, knowing both of you, I feel like um there there's a sort of alignment when two people like love what they're doing, and they also have that like skills I guess to bring it forward. Not that you need all the skills, but I feel like both of you are like had this passion for basketball, and we're able to bring together the skills that you use in your day to day
Mhm.
to
Yeah.
build like a pitch together, and it was really beautiful to see it come together from you being on this platform talking us through how you ran a business presentation with the county of where the league was launched, all these things, like you talked us through that, and now here we are in
Yeah.
April, and you're having the first three games. The community, people signed up, and you had a wait list. Like, it's real, friend, and it's so beautiful to see that project come to life. How
Mhm.
did it feel
Mhm.
to see your baby all grown
To
up?
see my baby come out of the womb.
Yeah, yeah.
I love that question because, like, transparently, friend, this was one of the first accomplishments that I felt like I really paused and celebrated
Hmm.
with my person, with Amani. Um, I think over the years I've accomplished a lot of things through academically, career wise, even personal relationship wise, but I don't think I vividly remember pausing and like really celebrating the win and like,
Hmm.
damn, like we really did that. Let's go out to eat and get some ice cream, whatever it may be. I just don't remember a timestamp where I was so intentionally like, this is a fucking win and we deserve to fucking celebrate and pause and just like eat this up all weekend. Like, like really
Hmm.
marinate in the win and the celebratoriness of it. Um, and I think just put things in perspective how like and this is recent too, like my outcome driven side of me is great, but I do think it needs to be coupled with I need to celebrate the outcomes that I'm hitting, like the achievements
Yeah.
that I am, like accomplishing because I haven't done that throughout life, even again as I went through
Hmm.
academia, as I went through career growth, as I went through personal growth as well. But I think this is like, and that's another part of why this community is so special and just the brand is so special because it does reconnect me with my inner child, and those are some things that little Mary, young Mary would have wanted. Like, yeah, you should have
Yes.
celebrated that bachelor's degree. Yeah, you should have celebrated more of that master's degree. Oh yeah, like
Yeah.
you go to therapy sessions, you should have celebrated that. So I think this was the first time where I felt truly like I was celebrating myself, celebrating
Hmm.
the evolution of little Mary and along with my partner, like my person too. So it was very special. I think that's how it felt. It was just such a special moment, such a special weekend to have.
I love hearing that, friend. That sounds such a lovely feeling to, like you said, marinate in your
Mhm.
win and just celebrate. And it's so crazy. Even remember when we were having episodes and we were talking about like what did like your little inner child play when they were young, and yours
Yes.
was like basketball. And yeah, and at that time we were just chatting about this, and we talked about like our inner child, and
Yeah.
how that's how we like those are things that we did when we were a child. And I don't know,
Mhm.
it's just so beautiful that you were able to, through this whole project, reconnect with that side of yourself that enjoyed play, enjoyed, it's loved this sport, and now you get to do that with someone you really care about. It's just like a double double special, it's incredible. It's incredible.
Yeah, and I
And
appreciate that, friend. Mhm.
yeah, and I was gonna say, friend, as like you're seeing this come to life and you're enjoying this moment with your partner and yourself and celebrating this win, what would you say is like one like lesson that you're taking forward as you continue to this next evolution of seeing this project play out? And that could be like a reminder, something that you're going to hold with you. It could be this like moment here. Like, I'm just
Mhm.
curious because obviously, like, the reason why I'm asking this is like there's going to be moments like later on as you're expanding this brand that you might, be wondering like, what do we do next? Like, and
Yeah.
yeah, what reminders are you taking from this moment?
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Because I do think I'll say a couple of things. Yeah, I mean, definitely like celebrating the progress, regardless of how small, big, and not getting caught up on always like what's next. Because I think I've lived in that constant state of what's next. Like, oh, got that. Oh, hit that milestone. I think
Mm-hmm.
that would be one, is definitely celebrating the progress as we go, and we did that very intentionally throughout, as we were creating these things, or each step of the way as we were creating the brand and the league. So definitely that, first and foremost, celebrate the wins, no matter how small, even if it's just, wow, we got one participant for this social event. Celebrating that all in all. But I think the other part, that continue to plays in my head is just also like again, just showing up. Showing up
Mm-hmm.
is big, and because there's a lot of sessions, like after hour sessions or weekend sessions, where my partner and I would just sit at a coffee shop and talk shop of like, okay, what movement do we need to have done by, within this week. And
Yeah.
even though sometimes like, oh my gosh, we're at this coffee shop, it feels, like on a Sunday evening, showing up and being there, I think really
Mm-hmm.
helped the momentum carry forward.
Mm-hmm.
um and I do think like, yeah, I owe it a lot to my partner. She's a very great accountability person, because I think without her, definitely, I don't think could have done this on my own. And I think it just helps to have another person who is equally passionate and dedicated to this brand, and to just bounce ideas off and show up for each other ultimately at the end of it. So I would go with those two. Definitely celebrate the wins, and show up even when you don't feel
Mm-hmm.
like it.
Yes, friends. Shout out to those after hour sessions,
Yes.
coffee shop work dates
Yes,
that
yes.
made it all happen.
Definitely the higher working sessions, and higher working session dates. we're, we're
Hmm.
we're good, and it's ongoing. But I'm curious, friend. Like, enough of me and my basketball endeavor community with Haya. I want to hear. I know a lot of um things have also gone off on your side with your creative wellness toolkit. There's a lot of concept with play, and we heard a little bit
Hmm.
about your skating, or rollerblading journey with your niece, but love to hear like, what have you learned in terms of, just as you're playing and curating this wellness toolkit for you. What would be some things that you would like to share with us?
Yeah, friend. Thank you so much for the question. And as we're chatting about the ways that our inner child helps us reconnect to our creativity, I feel like that's really been like a big theme for me the last few weeks, months. Even like the reason why I really love roller skating and I've really gotten into it, it's because I do feel like my inner child enjoys that
Yes.
activity, that playfulness of like, movement. And another thing that, we talked about even on the platform that I really enjoyed doing when I was a child was like reading, writing. I love
Writing,
telling
yeah.
stories. So that's something that I always like had a dream of like one day, like in the future, maybe writing a book, right? So it's
Yeah.
always something that has been like a dream of mine. And so something so small as even like getting started, I feel like is such a like huge step for me. And
Yes, it is.
so like I know on the platform, like launching the blog was like a
Yes.
huge thing. I would say that like one lesson from that was like I said, like really the importance of getting started and sticking with our theme of like showing up,
Yeah.
dedicating that time to write, not add pressure to it, allow it to be
Yep.
free flowing is so important in that creative space and giving it that creative space and time, that creative hora, as we like to say here, but it's so important. So I do feel like my inner child has been really coming out to play. Like I've been writing for fun. There's some stuff that I'm writing that's not even for the blog, but the blog is more of my ofrenda to our audience. And of course, continuing to roller skate. I'm trying to get better at that, add more movement and rhythm. So still working on connecting with my body in those aspects of feeling more present and bringing more intentional joy and creativity to my day-to-day. But yeah, it's been very interesting and I would say this is kind of been the learning lesson, and I think it aligns with something that I mentioned earlier, but finding more ways to show up in places. I feel like from like the first few months in the year, I've built such a solid foundation of a toolkit that we talked about here. I've reconnected with hobbies that make me feel very connected with my body, myself. I started writing again. So tapping into a creative like hour space, dedicating that time. So now I'm like, okay, now that I have these tools that I can rely on and lean back on, like how can I now leverage these tools or in that empowerment, excitement to now be more present in communities, with others, even if it's like my close relationships, like being more present and showing up. So I really like that theme of showing up because I do feel like this whole journey of becoming more in tune with myself is so necessary as I extend these roots to my community and to my other relationships. So yeah, it's a very interesting time. I guess what I'm realizing is that tapping into community is not as easy as I thought. And there's small ways that I feel like there I could do better, but there's also ways where I'm like, okay, I just need to just challenge myself more in tapping into community more.
I love that, friend, and yeah, definitely love the blog post and waiting for a fan fiction blog post though, but we'll see if we get it. But no, I'm curious, friend, as you reconnected back to hobbies that really fulfill you and really nurture your inner child again, like roller skating and even writing. I know you were an avid writer growing up and loved also an avid reader as well, but how did it feel to reconnect with like parts of your body being present during roller skating, or even when you sat down in your writing session? I'm not sure if it was at your desk or was it by the tree or was it outside in a hammock, but curious to know like how that felt, like even just writing and just starting and putting on those skates and just going for it.
Yeah, I would say that it felt like basically allowing moments of inspiration, like I welcomed them instead of like I always felt like I needed to have like that dedicated time, which is so important as a practice for your creativity to have that dedicated time. But as I would have waves of inspiration or a topic would come to mind that I wanted to write about, I would go out and like I would write it on my phone. I would write like a couple sentences that I wanted to like expand on. So I just was really open to allowing waves of inspiration to happen. With my skates, it was very similar. I like if I wanted to put them on and it was like 6 o'clock, I'm gonna put them on at 6 o'clock, or even like at 8, I would put them on and then I would get in trouble because I live with my sisters, and so they're like, "Girl, what are you doing with your skates on at 8?" Like, but I just allowed it to happen. When I wanted to play, I allowed play to happen. And so I feel like that's how I felt. It felt like something that was playful that I didn't need to add pressure to. But allowing the waves of inspiration is what allowed me to get started, to then build towards now having that dedicated, creative hora for writing. So it was like that momentum that I was really thankful for, because I didn't really put time constraints, or I didn't put time to be like, okay, I need to skate during this time. I really allowed it to flow and let it, those moments that I wanted to play, I allowed it to happen. When I found topics, like for example, friend, when we met up in LA in March, I had like so many little waves of inspiration of stuff that I wanted to write about. And like I still have like notes on that, so I feel like I'm able to like tap in and be like, oh, I want to write a little bit more about this, so this feels very relevant to what I'm feeling now in the present again. So making those connections and capturing those moments of inspiration that come from being around loved ones, being around friends, being around the things that you love. So I would say that's been the biggest feeling that I've allowed to happen.
Yeah, and I think the sparks of inspiration and jotting them down, I mean, it's a spark of idea and creativity, and there's no one way to create or write or skate. It could be at any time, or when it feels right. It could be that gut feeling of just wanting to put that idea down on your phone, or like you said, like wanting to put on the skates at 8 p.m. just because you feel like connecting with your body. But no, I love that, friend, and I'm glad that the blog has launched and you're continuing to write. I'm excited to continue reading them, and hopefully we get more updates with maybe you racing in the roller skating ring. And I'm kidding.
Actually, that's so funny you say that, because there's there's like okay. So I mentioned like I'm having some trouble like tapping into community. So I know there's like a big like skating community where I'm at, but I'm low-key intimidated because they're like, like they're good skaters. they know everything. But I recently saw that they have like a roller derby team, but it's like all for beginners. Like they're like beginners welcome. So I recently saw that. I'm like, wait, I'm like low-key down. Especially since they did have a big sign that said beginners like welcome. I'm like, okay, I feel welcomed if you're like pointing that out. But yeah, so maybe the next time we chat, I'll be part of a skating community. Roller derby team.
Well, that would be exciting. Can't wait to hear more about it, and definitely encourage you to join. We'll see where it takes you, though.
Yeah,
friend. Well, no, this been like a really fruitful conversation. I think a lot of themes from our initial check-in to even now of our creative project updates is the concept of showing up and being graceful to yourself and having compassion, and how do you do that and balance all that. So I think it's just been a treat to hear the ways that you're showing up for yourself, and just continuing to again nurture. We talk about inner child a lot, but I think for me it's like really near and dear to continuing to nurture that inner child in me, and continue showing up for them. So I just love this conversation, and I like that showing up came up a lot.
Yes, friend. Same to you. I appreciate you so much for the vulnerability that you bring to the platform. I always enjoy having this moment of, we've talked about really celebrating, the wins. And for me, this is always a moment to just celebrate the present when I'm with you here in this platform. I get to express, how I'm feeling and check in with myself, but also hear about how someone that my friend that I care so much about, how they're doing and feeling caught up and connected. That is just priceless. So I'm so thankful for you, friend. I'm thankful for the opportunity for us to catch up on our creative journey. And, to our audience, like, I'm so curious to hear, how do you bring, more self-compassion to yourself in your creative journey when, you might not be making the progress that you think you should? And if that's something that you're like, great, I'm feeling better about that, how do you challenge yourself to show up more for these creative projects?
Love that question.
Thanks for tuning in. Creative Hora is a podcast production hosted by Dalia Zaragoza and Mary Figueroa. This episode is edited by Abdullah Kawish and is produced by akstudio.global.